Welcome back to the all-in-one guide on how to use your Uncle John's Recipes MycoKit to grow your own mushrooms. Today, we're going to be talking about flushing. You'll know you're ready for this video when you start to see these little guys. These are what's known as pins. When your cake starts to pin, this indicates the beginning of fruiting. And rather than show you what you should do during this process, I thought it would be more beneficial to show you what you shouldn't do and what happens when you do those things. And we'll start off by the golden rule, and that is, don't touch your cake. Always avoid touching your mycelium. During this phase, it's utilizing its resources to produce fruits, and introducing a contamination could cause reduction in yield or worse, a soiled crop. And the best way to avoid this happening to you is to just plainly avoid touching your mycelium even when using sterile objects until it's time to yield your crop, which we'll talk about later. Well, this mistake led to what you see here. But now let's talk about rule number 2. Let your mycelium breathe. Here's an example of what happens when you don't let your mycelium breathe. This can lead to what are known as aborts, and those are those tiny mushrooms that seem like they were ready to fruit and stop. Mycelium will do this to reserve the resources if your cake is underwatered or lacks the proper amount of oxygen in what you see here. Also, a telltale sign of a lack of oxygen is the furry feet that you see building up the stem of the mushroom. Furry feet are okay, but you want to keep them on the feet. Once they start getting halfway up the mushroom, that's a great sign that you need to be fanning more. Next, we'll talk about moisture. Mushrooms love to stay wet, and when you give them too much air, this will lead to a dry cake. Sure indications of this, you'll see shrinking in the cake, and as well as cracking in the caps of your mushrooms. It's time to pick your mushrooms. You can do so by grabbing them by the base. And as always, follow rule number 1 and try to avoid touching your mycelium. You can grab your mushrooms right above their base and give them a good twist and pull, and that should gently relieve them from the cake without obstructing too much of your mycelium. You want to leave your cake nice and healthy for the next flush, like you see here. In this second flush, I gave that same cake a healthy amount of air and moisture, and as you can see, the flush was robust, and all in all, I still managed to yield around 1.5 ounces between the 2 first flushes. Since these cakes got off to an unhealthy start, I'll likely give them one final flush before I go ahead and start over with a fresh MycoKit refill. Thanks so much for watching.